بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد.
So we were talking about the last trip of Musa alayhi salam with Khidr. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. وأما الجدار فكان لغلامين يتيمين في المدينة وكان تحته كنز لهما. As for the wall or that small house, as we said, it was for two orphans and there was a treasure underneath it and their father was good.
Also only a wall.
You cannot find a wall by itself, brother.
No.
Who builds a wall? Just a wall.
Read it.
I know the word jidar means a wall, but it's used normally for a small house too. That's why you need to come, brother Iyadi's class. Because nobody just builds a wall in the middle of nowhere. Just a wall.
Because the treasure under the wall.
Okay. You don't put treasure under the wall. You hide the treasure under a house, right? Not under a wall.
Whenever it is like that.
Yeah. So anyway, the main thing is some say when Allah says their father was righteous, therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants those two orphans to get older and to be able to get their treasure. Some say that was not their direct father, like the first generation. In some of the tafasir, they say 7 generations above, meaning the 7th great-grandfather was righteous. And because of that 7th great-grandfather, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took care of the 7th generation because of his good deeds. Can you imagine how big of a difference it makes when you are a father? Not only your children will be taking benefit or they will benefit from your good deeds, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Their children inshallah, and their children inshallah, and their children inshallah. 7 generations, they say. The great-grandfather of the 7th generation above, his good deeds, because of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected the treasure for the 2 youth. 2 orphans. Imagine, not their father, right, yani immediate father, but 7 generations above. وَكَانَ أَبُوهُمَا صَالِحًا فَأَرَادَ رَبُّكَ. Now this is important, how Musa alayhi salam says al-Khidr says to Musa, your Lord wanted. He didn't say Allah, and he didn't say my Lord. Your Lord, oh Musa. Why? Because you are the one who had objections. You are the one who were unhappy with what I did. So the one who created you, your Lord, the one who took care of you, will not forget about his creation. That's why he said, your Lord, the one who created you and took a good care of you.
Was not his Lord?
Yeah, it is his Lord for sure. But he wanted to remind Musa alayhi salam, it is your Lord who created those 2 orphans, and it's your Lord who's going to take care of them, just like he took care of you. That's why he said, your Lord. We said this story, it's not really a hadith, it's a story that found in some of the books, that the angel of death was asked, have you ever laughed? Have you ever cried? Have you ever gotten scared? So he said, one time I laughed, one time I cried, one time I was scared. So he was asked, when did you laugh? He said, there was one guy who bought some shoes and he was arguing with the shoemaker. He said, I want a warranty for more than a year. He didn't know he was going to die that same day. He's not going to wear it. So that's the first story. And then when did he cry, the angel of death? When there was a lady giving birth by herself. She was in the desert, and he was commanded to take her soul, and he left the baby in the middle of the desert. And then when did he get scared? When he was ordered to take the soul of this man who was praying tahajjud. The man was surrounded with light. Even the angel of death was scared getting close to him. So he was told that do you know who that man who was praying tahajjud? He said, who? And he was told, it is the same baby you left in the desert. So this is Rada Rabbuka, your Lord. Your Lord does not forget about anyone. He took care of you the same way he will take care of those 2 orphans. the same way he will take care, or even all the 3 trips, the things that happened in terms of the making a crack in the ship, or killing the young man, or rebuilding the wall. All these are the will of Allah, your Lord. The one who created you and took care of you will take care of those owners of the ship, and will take care of the young man, and will take care of the 2 orphans. So فَأَرَادَ رَبُّكَ, your Lord, O Musa, wanted that those 2 orphans to get older. So if you pay close attention, there is a promise from Allah that those 2 orphans will get older, and nothing will happen to them until they get older. That's the first promise. Not only, many people miss the concept here. They say Allah promised to protect the treasure for them. There is a more important promise, that they will get older, and they will get to the age where they can get the treasure on their own. So that's a more important promise, that Allah will protect them. Remember, they are orphans, living, oh, thank you, Yusuf, living in a village that is made out of many stingy people. So how are they going to survive? And they are orphans. So the first promise, that they will get older, and they will get to the age when they are strong enough to be able to get their treasure on their own. So this is a more important promise than protecting the treasure for them, protecting them themselves. 2 orphans growing up in a community that is stingy, that is mean. And by the way, stinginess is normally an attribute that is connected to other attributes. It's rare for you to find someone who is only stingy, only cheap. Normally that comes with bad manners and comes with a lot of bad stuff. There is a funny story I wanted to tell you about stingy people. So a stingy man, he had a guest. So when the guest came in, the stingy man said to his son, go get us some beef so we can make food for the guest. He said that in front of the guest. So the son goes, and he comes back 3 hours later without any beef, with nothing. So the father asked the son, he said, you have been out for all this time, 3 hours, and you bring nothing? What happened? He said, let me tell you the story. I went first to the butcher to get the beef. I told him, give me some ground beef. He said, I'm going to give you ground beef so good, the knife cuts through it like butter. You know, this is an expression. So the young man said, the son of the stingy person, if you're going to give me meat like butter, I'll go buy butter. It's cheaper. So he went to the grocery store to buy butter. He asked the owner of the shop, you have good butter? He said, I have very good butter. You eat it, it's like water. It melts in your mouth like water. He said, if I'm going to buy butter again, just go get water. If it goes in your mouth like water, I might as well get water. So I went to get water, and then I did not want to buy water. I found this water fountain, and I got some water in it. So the father got upset with him. He said, but all these trips, you wasted your shoes. You're wearing your shoes, and you're going from one place to another. You used your shoes too much. So the son said, don't worry, my father, I was wearing the guest's shoes.
That's cute.
He's more stingy than his father.
Yeah.
Don't worry. You're drinking of the perfect. Don't worry.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So going back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected those orphans because their 7th grandfather, great-grandfather, was a righteous man. And he gave them the ability to get out their treasure. فأراد ربك أن يبلغا أشدهما ويستخرجا كنزهما رحمة من ربك. Mercy from your Lord again. Because Musa was the one questioning. So he wanted to remind him, your Lord, he took care of you in the same way he will take care of all of his creation. Ibn Kathir says something beautiful here. This statement, Rahmatan min Rabbik, this was done out of the mercy of your Lord, does not apply only to the last trip. This applies to all of the trips. The crack was made in the ship, Rahmatan min Rabbik, mercy from your Lord. The ghulam that was killed, Rahmatan min Rabbik, mercy from your Lord. And those two young orphans and the wall or the house, Rahmatan min Rabbik. So this Rahmatan min Rabbik, even though is mentioned with the third journey, about the third journey, but it applies to everything al-Khidr did, Rahmatan min Rabbik. This was a mercy from your Lord. And of course, this is a lesson that everything happens to us Muslims is Rahmatan min Rabbik. This is mercy from Allah, even if it doesn't look like it's mercy. I was really upset a couple of days ago because I got sick like 2 weeks ago. And then I got sick again. I was like, what's going on? Why do I get sick too much? When you remember Rahmatan min Rabbik, mercy from your Lord, it might not look like mercy. It might not feel like mercy, but this is Rahmatan min Rabbik. So this is a beautiful lesson to learn. Everything happens is Rahmatan min Rabbik. This is mercy from your Lord. وَمَا فَعَلْتُهُ عَنْ أَمْرِي. I did not do this out of my own will, according to my own will. This is the will of Allah. And again, this applies to everything He's done. Not only rebuilding the wall or rebuilding the house, it is of everything He's done, making the crack in the ship and the young man and the two orphans, everything I have done when we were together, Musa and al-Khidr, مَا فَعَلْتُهُ عَنْ أَمْرِي. I did not do this out of my own accord. This is not something that I wanted to do. This is the command of Allah. And by the way, this is where you know who the righteous person is. The righteous person is the one who links everything to Allah. In this story, al-Khidr was given knowledge nobody else was given. Even Musa, alayhi salam, the one who spoke to Allah, Kalimullah, this knowledge was not given to him. So it's something to brag about, something to say, look at me, I am superior. Still, al-Khidr, to the very end, he said, this was the command of Allah, not my command. So that's what the righteous person will always do, especially at the time of superiority or feeling special, because Allah chose al-Khidr to give him that knowledge, which means al-Khidr is a very righteous man. And as I said, some consider him to be a prophet. But I don't believe that is the case, wallahu a'lam. And then he tells him, ذَلِكَ تَأْوِيلُ مَا لَمْ تَسْطِعْ عَلَيْهِ صَبْرًا. That is the interpretation. Ta'wil is when normally we use it for telling dreams. Ta'wil, when you explain something that was ambiguous, something that was unknown, strange. So all these things which I have done and they seemed strange to you, when I did it, now, and that's why he said, تَسْطِعْ, not تَسْتَطِعْ. Assalamu alaikum. Normally the word is تَسْتَطِعْ, not تَسْطِعْ. So تَسْتَطِعْ with the ta after the ta means something difficult for you. You have no ability. It's more difficult than تَسْطِعْ. تَسْطِعْ without the ta, easier. And the reason why is mentioned تَسْطِعْ here, and earlier he said لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعِيَ صَبْرًا twice. Now why the تَسْطِعْ here and تَسْتَطِيعَ earlier? تَسْتَطِيعَ, it's difficult. For you, it's difficult for you to be patient in this situation. But now, after I have told you the reason, it's easier for you to be patient. That's why he said تَسْطِعَ. تَسْطِعَ is easier than تَسْتَطِعَ. It's before and after. Before, you did not know why I did that, so it's difficult for you to be patient. Now you know why I did that, it's easier for you to be patient. Next, I asked a question last week. I don't know if anybody even remembered that I asked a question last week. I said in Surah al-Kahf, there are 4 stories, 4 major stories. The story of Ashab al-Kahf, the youth who took shelter in the cave. And then after that, the story of the 2 friends or 2 brothers, one who had 2 gardens, the other one did not have it. The third story is this one, Khidr and Musa. And the 4th story is Dhul Qarnayn. And we said in Surah al-Kahf, after every story, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a page or so to comment over the story and to tell us what to learn from the story. When Allah talked about Ashabul Kahf, the people of the youth of the cave, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about how to benefit from the Quran and having good friendship and companionship, right? And then he talked about the two friends, and then he mentioned hellfire and Jannah and Iblis. And then he talked about, now Musa and al-Khidr, the story ends here. Allah does not say anything about the story, no commentary. And he starts immediately about Dhul Qarnayn, right away. The story ends, ذَلِكَ تَأْوِيلُ مَا لَمْ تَسْطِعْ عَلَيْهِ صَبْرًا, and then وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنْ ذِي الْقَرْنَيْنِ, which is different from the previous stories. Why is there nothing in between? It's like one story ends, next story starts immediately. Why?
Because Sheikh, those mushrik of Makkah, they asked those three questions to Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. These are the answer for those questions.
Yeah, but the first question was about Ashabul Kahf, but still there is a commentary after that. They asked three questions. The people of Makkah, actually, this is what happened. The people of Makkah are mushrikeen. They worship idols. So they don't know anything about Dhul Qarnayn or Ashabul Kahf or anything. But they sent to the Jews of Medina. And they said, we have this man who is claiming to be a prophet, and we want you to send us some really difficult questions so we can prove that he's not a prophet. So they sent them three questions. Ashabu al-Kahf, the youth of the cave. Ar-Ruh, the soul. What is the soul? And the third question about Dhul Qarnayn. Those were the three questions. I asked later on some other questions. And Allah answered two questions in Surah al-Kahf, Ashabul Kahf and Dhul Qarnayn, and he answered the soul in Surah al-Isra. Some people, by the way, and subhanAllah, you find those people everywhere, even in the masjid. They ask you a question not because they want to know the answer. They want to test you. When I ask you a question and I know the answer already, then why am I asking? I want to test you. And those people feel good when they embarrass you.
You're evil.
That's evil. Because they don't want you to know the answer. And if you know the answer, they ask you another question. They keep asking until you get to a point when you don't know. And that's when they get happy. And sometimes, wa alaykum assalam. And sometimes they ask you questions which have no answer on purpose. Because if you give an answer, you are at the wrong here. And this is what the Jews did. They sent three questions. One of them, which is in the middle, does not have an answer. So they were thinking, if he gives us an answer to each one of these three questions, then he's not a prophet. He has to say about the second one, about Ar-Ruh, the soul, that there is no answer to that question. But since Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to answer the questions in Surah al-Kahf and leave the question that cannot be answered to another surah, in Surah al-Isra, Allah says, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي. This question has no answer. It's not within your knowledge. So all of the questions were answered exactly how a prophet will answer it. And they still did not believe, subhanAllah. And that's why when I'm saying some people ask questions not because they want to know the answer. They want to embarrass you. They want you to get to a point where I don't know the answer. See, he doesn't know anything, this guy. This is what people do. And this is very unfortunate. So, but by the way, the Jews at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they used to sit in circles and think about the most difficult questions they can come up with. So they can embarrass him and they can say, look, he's not a prophet. He does not know the answer. Subhanallah, the stories they asked about Dhul Qarnayn and Ashabul Kahf and the other stories, how did they know these stories? The Jews, because it's mentioned in their book, in the Torah. But Allah gave Prophet Muhammad ﷺ not only the answer which they had, Allah added more details which they even didn't have in their book. Because if Allah gave Prophet Muhammad ﷺ the exact answer which they had in their book, they will say there is some Jewish scholar teaching him. But when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him more details, more information, more than what they had in their book, then who will teach him something that is not known to man? Happened thousands of years ago. which is not even mentioned in the Holy Book, not in the Injil or in the Torah, Old Testament or New Testament. So we go back to the question which I asked first. Why is there no commentary between the story here about Musa and Khidr and Dhul Qarnayn? Allah ends one story and starts the next one immediately. Why is there nothing in between which is different? By the way, every story in the Quran has a commentary afterwards to tell us how we learn from the story. Allah does not mention stories back to back this way. Except Surah Yusuf. Surah Yusuf has a whole story from the beginning to the end without any commentary until the end. And here Allah mentions the story of Musa alayhi salam and Khidr, and then after that right away Dhul Qarnayn. Why is there nothing in between?
Is it because Khidr already explained it to Musa himself?
That's right. But even if the story is clear, normally the commentary is not to explain the story to us. It is to tell us what we learn from it. So Khidr explained to Musa why he did what he did. But normally, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not tell us what do we learn from the story. Even if it's obvious, Allah still subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason is, and I find this to be, subhanallah, amazing here. The story of Musa and Khidr is talking about what? The 3 journeys. It's about tests, right? People going through difficult tests, right?
Mm-hmm.
The story of Dhul Qarnayn talks about victory, talks about power, talks about knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So Allah wants us to know that after a test, victory will come all the time. There is nothing in between.